In this episode, I want to show you 3 different dive trips I had. They're all from 2024, but from slightly different seasons. The trip I had to Sandain was in the spring. The other 2 trips were in late summer. All 3 trips are about spearfishing. Each trip out into the water becomes its own little chapter. The place you see here is quite far from my home, but I have driven past this place in connection with my work on a couple of occasions. Only got a look out of the window from the car and thought that one day I have to get in the water here and test the conditions. This place is like, you see a nice place and get a good gut feeling from it. That box must be opened. And so it was, and I was not disappointed. We will come back to this place after a short spearfishing visit in Bergen. Our destination has been reached. Visibility in the water and conditions in general look promising. Was lucky with the weather conditions, sunshine and blue skies. Found a nice place to spend the night. Rigged up the tents, ate some food. Lazy summer days in the heat. Can't get any better than that. While we rigged up the diving equipment, an elderly gentleman approached us with his boat. Wondered if we could help him and locate a lost fishing gear underwater. As we got out into the water, I met him in the area where he thought the fishing gear would be. The fishing gear was quickly located, and now it was just a matter of getting a hook hooked into it and pulling it up into the boat. I made sure to keep enough tension in the rope as he was tailing in so the hook wouldn't fall off. The catching gear is secured. Glad it wasn't left unseen and abandoned at the bottom. The elderly gentleman wanted to make amends, so he swung past our boat and left a few beers as thanks for the job. A nice start to the day for us in being able to help. So now back to our original plan for the day. We start by scanning the seabed for turbot. We looked around for a while without finding any turbot. So we moved to the other side of the island, where the conditions are completely different. Steep slope with kelp forest, a little more waves and some current in the water. Maybe a nice cod or pollock will turn up. We're going to eat crabs, already purchased white bread and necessary ingredients, so we have to set aside large parts of the day to ensure a good crab catch. So we have to go back to the other side again soon, making sure we manage to catch the crabs we need for a decent meal. Day 2 started with a big breakfast, unpacking the tent and carrying all the equipment over to the boat. Then we moved to a completely new area, looking for cod and pollock. We don't have as much time today because I have to drive some distance to get home, but for now, conditions look promising. We see fish, big and small, and a lot of it. Listen to the sound of a 6-kilo cod being caught in the background. Have to go over to him and have a look at the fish he caught. Extra fun to know that the big ones are here too. Unfortunately for me, although I would like to, I didn't catch any big fish for the rest of the day. What a lovely place, with lots of possibilities. But it's time to move on to the next dive. It was a successful trip to Bergen. But now, over to Horneland, an area I've been looking at for a long time. This is my first time here, very excited. What can I expect from this place? Maybe there is a big pollock out there, maybe a fat cod, or even better, the queen of the sea, halibut. They are actually caught in the fjord system in here. Deep down, well, but still, you never know. This is a map section of the area I will be diving. Between the mainland and the largest island you see, there are quite strong currents in the water, especially here, right in the time between high tide and low tide. Right now, things are very calm here. No currents in the water. So I don't have to think too much about it during this dive. The plan is, I will explore the area around the island. Check out this side of the island, even over here. But I am particularly interested in this area. Here, I have observed small boats, from which they fish. So that makes me a little extra curious. What is happening in this area? I can't wait to find out. I see a lot of small fish, and a little crab that wandered around. But so far, nothing over 2 kilograms has been shown. I'm a little curious about the other island, so I swim in that direction. Follows a shallow patch of sand on the way over there. It's pretty quiet over here. A bit shallow too. Find some scallops, but I don't need any more of those now. Already have a couple of them in the freezer. So I put them back where I found them. I want to spend the rest of my dive time all the way on the other side, around the other island. That was a close call. Starting to understand why people fish here. 2 great observations within 10 minutes. Was a bit unlucky on the last shot. Not an optimal delivery there. The fish moved from slow to fast in the middle of the duck dive. So I decide in the heat of battle to try a quick shot. But I don't fully extend my arm before I shoot. If you compare the last 2 shots on this trip, you quickly see how important it is to adapt your body to the shot. Small details make a big difference. The fish disappeared victoriously away, but it was a close call. It is situations like this that make hunting so exciting, win or lose. That brings us to the final chapter of this episode. Sandain, known as the sea trout's kingdom. But it is not legal to shoot sea trout with a spear gun in Norway. I'm there for the flatfish. Although ahead of this trip, I have no idea whether they are there or not, so fingers crossed. Betting on a good catch. It didn't take long before the first couple of flatfish were observed. They varied in size. Mostly small ones I saw. This one was quite nice. We are in the middle of April. The algae bloom is in full swing and the water is cold. Visibility varies, but mostly poor. But I see a lot of life in the water. As you can see on the map, we are quite far into a fjord, an area covered with large deposits of sand. The cross on the map is my starting point. The red field is the area I explored. Pretty stoked to be here. Always fun to explore completely new areas. Up in the corner of the screen, you see a decent-sized sea trout. This place is pure heaven for those who fly fish for this species. It is very tempting to check out the slopes where it gets deep. The only challenge is that the visibility is about 0. So that's out of the question for this time. Therefore, I decide I will continue the hunt, in shallow water, picking out the flatfish I want. Explore the area a bit more to get to know it. I am surprised to see scallops here. This has to be the shallowest scallop I've ever picked. But in this algae bloom, I leave them behind, waiting for green mussel warning. But a little fun experience. On my way up to land, I met an elderly local gentleman who was working outside his boathouse. We struck up a conversation about fishing. He told me some stories about the old days, from the time when he was a little boy, how much flatfish they saw, how they impaled the fish with long spears from the boat, how important salmon and sea trout fishing in the river that flows into the fjord became for the village. But it was one of his stories in particular that was very interesting. They had observed a large monkfish stranded on the beach, almost as if it had swam in of its own free will and remained there. No one understood the behavior of this fish. It wasn't just here that they had heard about this. It had happened in other places too. It was new to me. Always exciting to hear the locals' experiences. Very interesting to listen to the different stories out there. And so, without further ado, go day divers.